Tim Hughes here. I'm the co-founder of Digital Leadership Associates. I'm also the author of the book Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers. Today I've got Antonio Santos joining me from ATOS. I'm just sending him the invite now. Let's see if I can get him to join. Should be on the way. Here we go. Hey, hi, how you doing? Hi, I can't, have you got your sound on?
Yes.
Brilliant. How are you?
Very good. And yourself?
Excellent, excellent. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, what your background is.
Well, I'm a sociologist working in an IT organization.
Yes.
I moved from Ireland. I moved to Ireland in 2010.
Right.
Sorry. I moved to Ireland in 2006 to work for Siemens IT Solutions.
Okay.
So, and I stay there in, I don't know, almost 10 years.
Okay. You don't have an Irish accent, do you?
I don't. I usually contact with people from all over the world as part of the role that I have. I spend more time talking with people, in the United States or in UK than sometimes talking with people in Ireland.
So you started basically working for Siemens Mobile, and then got acquired by ATOS, and you've now got a role within ATOS, which is a kind of a interesting social role. But you're very active on social, aren't you? You run a number of Twitter chats. You've come up on Analytica lists. I can't remember which list but you're at the top or in the top 10. So you're very active on social, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. When I was working with Siemens Mobile, we were always trying to be ahead of whatever the customers were talking about the brand.
Right.
In forums, whatever type of sites online, in order to anticipate needs and to help customer service agents to deliver their service.
Okay.
So we want to avoid surprises from any issues that might go wrong with anything that the product relates with the product. Could be a software bug or anything else. So from those days, I was always very curious about anticipating needs and whatever the customers were talking about us, in order to help us delivering a good customer experience.
Okay.
So you after the acquisition of ATOS of the Siemens IT Solutions in 2011, that was always a bug that I had in me. How can we use technology? How can you use analytics, advanced search, in order to help us to deliver a good customer experience?
Okay. So one of the things that people often say to me is, they're starting from the beginning. How do I build a network up from the ground upwards? And one of the things that I talk about in my book is about social requires you to kind of go out and talk to strangers. And we're always told by our parents not to talk to strangers. So we're kind of doing something that is against what our parents told us. So how is it that what's your advice to people that are starting out in social that want to build a network, and how do they go and approach talking to strangers?
In fairness, my approach to that was related with a need that I had.
Okay.
Today you have so many sources of information coming to you, hundreds of blogs written every day, podcasts, videos, the information goes to you from many different sources. So, and it's difficult for you to judge who that is. So I decided to, I'm interested in a certain number of topics.
Yeah.
Let me try to find out who out there is writing and doing things in real life, not just talking about them, but someone that is actually working in the area of digital, developing projects. At the same time, they blog. I start listening them, and then I try to realize, I'm based in Ireland. they are in Germany, United States, Canada, Brazil. Now, if I want to have some level of engagement, I can't go to every conference that is happening around the world. So I need to go a little bit out of my comfort zone and try to reach them at a one-to-one level, with a very soft approach, trying to understand who they are, a little bit from their personal approach in social, something that they like in their part-times, outside, their digital and working lives.
So if you were starting from scratch and you had no network at all, and you need to go out, so the first thing that your advice would be to do is to listen to what other people are doing. So, for example, if you and one of the things to get into, one of the things that I've always found is that if you want to get out of your comfort zone, actually sometimes it's easier to get in it. So if one of the things that you could be doing if you were looking for creating your own network, maybe even though that you work in B2B and sales, the first thing you could do is, say you had an interest in science fiction. What you could do is you could actually search people online that were interested in science fiction. Find maybe the author. We could call that person an influencer. And what we could do is then look for people that were talking about the particular book. And sometimes I remember we had a talk about this before before we came on air, and it was, you were talking about how, sometimes, if we do something about that we're passionate about, we can then learn about it, and then we can move into actually doing it on
exactly. We can establish and improve
that space.
We can somehow use that as a way to improve the way how we make ourselves more confident in interactions with others.
Yes.
So
I know that Brian Fanzo, I'm a big fan of Brian Fanzo. He, for example, this isn't about Snapchat, but he's absolutely amazing on Snapchat. And he actually kills. It's just, if you're going to follow one person on Snapchat, he's just fantastic. And I met him and I said, so how did you do this? He said, well, actually, for 6 months, he said, I set a profile up that nobody knew it was me. And I just went on and listened. And I found all the interesting people and I could see what they're doing. And he said, really what I'm doing is I'm mimicking what they're doing, but I'm also adding a little bit about adding a little bit of the Brian Fanzo personality to that. And I think that if you're starting out in social selling and you don't know what to do, certainly in social, is to get on and actually, mess around in an area that you're comfortable in before you start going and doing other things.
No, that's very good advice.
And so, you talked about, finding an area that you're comfortable with. You're interested in science fiction. Find the authors. Build connections in that area, because there's bound to be. I don't know if you know, but there's a famous story that the most important person who's influential about beer is some guy who's some blogger in the States. And the thing about him is that if Budweiser puts something out about beer, you won't believe it, because Budweiser would say it. But there's this blogger in the States who basically talks about beer and stuff. And what you need to do is kind of find those people and then interact with those people and just talk to them normally.
Yeah, true. And sometimes that a specific author or someone is doing a presentation of a book, is on a sort of a conference that is being live streamed.
Yep.
And you're able to find a time where that person is paying attention to what is being said about him. Right. He's actually there. It's not just writing, and then at the end of the day or 2 days later, he goes to Twitter or to their feeds to see what the people are talking about them. He's actually paying attention. Right. So sometimes you need to try to find those moments of attention where people are actually listening and be part of that conversation, having that moments, and then you realize, oh, this is quite enjoyable. It's really nice. I have a reply, and these small things make you realize that in the ROI of social media, you are being rewarded for being able to be in that moment with that specific author and having that type of engagement.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we're in a situation where we actually can block people that come and interrupt us. We can block, but we're also in a situation where I'm available 365 days a year, 7 days a week if people want to contact me in a particular way, and therefore we are able to we are able to connect. I mean, you talk about if you're in an area that you're passionate about, you can then give knowledge. So if you've read a particular science fiction book, so somebody rang me last night. I had a conversation with somebody who'd read my book. They'd read it twice. The second time they read it, they went through with a pen, and we had a long conversation about that. And he was obviously very passionate about it. I'm very passionate about it because I wrote it. And actually having that ability to go out, connect with people that are writers of a particular book, that this person, it's probably going to change their life. And actually, in fact, I'm talking about it today. I was amazed, and there must be people, if you've got an interest about science fiction, you go, wow, I love that book about this, and it's amazing how you will find other people that are interested out there about that, and you can share that passion and have that conversation. And the great thing about social is that you can switch it off. So don't worry about people. If people are weird or people troll you or whatever, you can switch it off. You can block them. All of those things are in our power. Would you agree with that?
I agree, and I do a good number of Twitter chats.
Yeah,
and some of the advices that we provide to our guests is, you are going to be part of a conversation. People are going to tag you, reply to you in a way that you are going to be. It's impossible to answer everybody. So what you need to find a way that the chat works for you. Then, after the period of the chat, go back again, go to the feed in your own time, in your own rhythm, and reply to those that make sense. And don't let social control you. Okay, to have an enjoyable experience, you need to be able to control it yourself in an enjoyable way.
Yes.
Okay? So
I'm going to come back to the Twitter chat because it's really important that there's something that people can use to engage. The thing about the Twitter chat is the fact that I'm going to get you to talk about how you find them and how people. But it's about finding a subject that you're actually interested in and being passionate about, and then engaging with people. And then moving on to some of the, you sell HCM and you're going to work on that. So in terms of the Twitter chats, how do people get involved in that, and why do you see that as important, as something that certainly early days, some people, if they want to start talking to people about a subject area, because there are hundreds, if not thousands, of Twitter chats out there.
I think you can. It's true that there's a good number of them today. I think you should try to identify your area of interest, something that you like. Try to search for those Twitter chats who have some level of regularity.
So your Twitter chat uses a hashtag, doesn't it?
You're using a hashtag.
What's that hashtag? So
access chat.
Okay.
AXSCHAT.
Okay.
It's focused on accessibility and digital inclusion.
Yes.
There are other Twitter chats like work trends, where talk about the world of work. Another one focus on ESN chat.
Yeah. And what time do you run this as a particular time, don't you?
My Twitter chat happens every Tuesday at 8 p.m. London, 3 p.m. New York.
Right.
So it's very focused on a specific topic of accessibility, disabilities, and digital inclusion. And we try to bring people who are leaders in this sector, where they can talk to everybody. Because what we found a few years ago with Deborah Rue and Neil Millikan is in this particular area, people were talking in silos.
Yeah.
So if you work in accessibility, you only talk with another accessibility professionals and so on. And our goal was to open the conversation to everybody, and even facilitate the language.
Okay.
Because this helps us to create awareness about the importance of the topic without having that specific vocabulary that sometimes people might not understand.
Okay. And you know, if you're passionate about an area, it's very much that you can, it's very easy then for you to give back, and it's a bit of a cliche, but add value, and join a conversation. So if we think about, you know, there's always, networking's been around for years. So I mean, if we think about it, you know, it's a bit like, you know, you go to an event and you walk in the room and you don't know anybody. So you probably go and get a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, and there's someone else standing there who's also doesn't know anybody. So you go up to them and you say, so what do you do and how far have you come? And that's really the way that I think that people need to think about this and engage online. It's about you've gone to an event, you get to the point where you've got your tea or your coffee and you go, so have you, you know, what's the weather like today? And did you get up early? And was the traffic bad? And those sort of things. But you can, on social, if you've picked up something like science fiction, immediately move to talk about certain areas about science fiction that you like, because you're talking to people with a similar interest. And by doing that, you can then move to B2B subject HCM or ERP or things like that at a later date. I mean, is that what the way that you see it?
Yes, and just in relation to science fiction, I'm a big fan of Daniel Suarez.
Okay.
Who wrote a book about where he's trying to bridge, you know, he tries to see the future of technology ahead. Yeah. So he's trying to see about Internet of Things, or all these objects would work in the future.
Yes.
And how can they work? And then he brings that to science and fiction. It's a kind of, sometimes, you know, especially in this area, if you want to understand how the world is going to be, you go and look into science fiction, where you see some type of directions in the way it could be done in society. But you make a very good point in relation to try to find points of connection.
Yes,
between individuals, and they are really important, because we know that we live in the area where people are being say, oh, we need to be in social. And sometimes at the senior level, people say, oh, I don't know how to do that step. And then we realize we're talking about people who have brilliant networks.
Yes,
outside social. No, they are a brilliant network. They go to an event and they do an amazing job reaching people. So the key here is how can they move the amazing skills that they already have to social. Sometimes it's just about, you know, you need to find a way to break that barrier that is in front of them and build that confidence. And if you tell them the story in the way that you following your lead there about finding points of connection for conversation, they make themselves aware of how interesting the conversation can be, and also so they become more trustful in themselves.
And really the following piece on social media for me is about the swapping of the business cards. You know, I've got a stack of business cards just to make, you know, but the thing is that a business card, you know, it probably has a 2 or 3 year life. And if you're connecting with someone on LinkedIn, they're the people that are always going to update. So if people move jobs, you immediately go, what's that person? And usually I go through the business cards and go, oh yeah, that's the person, and then look for them on LinkedIn. So there's still that certain amount of offline and online work. But I think, you know, it's so important that what we do is that we're looking for those points of connections, and we're building rapport, and we can do that online with our prospects and our customers, or we can do it with people who also like science fiction books, and that's where we can start building our network. And just like we're at the networking event where we swap business cards, at the end of the day, you know that even though you went to a networking event and you went, oh yeah, I need a new laptop. I met a guy who basically sells laptops. I'm going to go and buy it from them, because people will buy from not just people, but people that they know and they trust, and in a way that they buy from friends.
And then you may end up in a situation like this. Oh, I'm going to buy this laptop from that guy that loves cross country.
Yes.
Is passionate about that.
Yes.
That I also like. So, and this reveals to another point, that the importance of being unique when you are building your presence. So, people connect with you, Tim, because you are yourself.
Yes.
Not because you are reading a book about social, and suddenly you became the image of the person that written the book. So it's important that you are able to keep your individuality at the same time that you follow the best practices in the industry of what people are talking about. That, but is also is very important that you also keep the notion of you and be yourself and unique.
And you earlier on, you were talking about streaming and things like that, and I didn't probe about it, because it's kind of really what I wanted to bring out at the end, which is the thing about social. The thing about networking is that you're in Dublin, where you are, and you may meet with people, but that means that you can only meet with people in Dublin. You may move around in business, but what social allows you to do is, in effect, work in scale. So, for example, there's the Web Summit on at the moment in Lisbon, in Portugal. And I'm sure there's people, if I haven't been online, but there will be people live streaming that. And in effect, you can take part and discuss that and engage with people at that summit. And you haven't actually had to pay admission. You can talk to people. I know people are there, and they will engage back with you. And that gives you great ability to scale across the world that you've never been able to do, certainly in the time that I've been in business. You do it a lot, don't you?
I do. So the Web Summit is a great example, because we don't have time to go everywhere. I may be on, let's say, on holidays. I could that already programmed, or I have my family. That's a priority for me. I may be working with a customer that doesn't allow to go to the summit, but by engaging in social media and going to the hashtag, I don't need to be live or to follow that at the moment that it happens. I can go there later, and then I can try to identify interesting people that were following the event. If I want to do business in Lisbon, I can try to identify those who are in the conversation, who are from Lisbon, who are active and are interested in engagement.
Yeah.
So you can do that type of work in a very interesting way, just by be an active listener.
Yeah, and I think it's important about going back. I mean, I'm being videoed Thursday, and I've got to I'm doing a piece to camera. So I've been told I've got to write it before the thing gets a script. I'm sure I'm going to have to read it out. And I needed some facts. So I thought, I know what I'll do. The CEB summit was on a couple of weeks ago, and I needed some facts about account management. So I just went to Twitter, went on the CEB summit hashtag and scrolled through, and immediately got 3 facts from that had been tweeted out that I'm going to use in this piece. Whereas if I went to Google, I wouldn't actually find that information generally, because all Google searches for is information in articles or and websites. Whereas something like Twitter enables you to search on things which are far more, people are tweeting in time, so you can actually use it as a different resource.
And you can also use that to try to identify the authority of the person who shared that content.
Yes.
Try to understand who that person is.
Yes.
And so is a interesting way to find content and then find validation for that same type of content.
Yes. Yeah. And I usually find that this is a really interesting person, and I start, and anyway, that's probably a different discussion for a different day.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Antonio. That's been fantastic, been really insightful. Let everybody know where they can find you, your Twitter, your LinkedIn. Also mention your various Twitter chats so they can follow those hashtags as well and join in.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I tweet under AKWIZ. It was inspired in the old American radio station.
Okay. Yeah.
When I was a teenager, I founded a pirate radio back in the old days. So
I wondered where that came from. It's like a radio handle. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And then at the time I realized I have a name that is very popular in Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, even in Brazil. So if I use this name, and if there's someone in my space, could be a soccer player or someone in the entertainment business using this name, I'm going to be completely invisible all over the place. So that's how I end up choosing that handle.
Okay. And where people can find you on LinkedIn?
You can find me on LinkedIn under my full name, Antonio Santos.
Yeah.
That will relate with my address.
Okay.
My
and what are remind us again of your Twitter chats?
My Twitter chat is Access Chat. AXSCHAT.
Okay, and that's on Tuesdays at
8 p.m.
8 p.m. UK, 3 p.m. New York.
New York, yes.
Brilliant.
We have this week we have one of the leaders in the area of disability and inclusion in the United States. Someone that is served in the Bush administration as one of the main experts in the area of disability and inclusion. So it will be should be an interesting conversation.
Fantastic.
And soon we will have the CIO of the Federal Communication Commissions in the United States.
Brilliant. So it sounds like it's really a place that you need to tune in, not just engage with that.
No, and it is a place and an hashtag to find interesting things and insights in the area of accessibility and digital inclusion.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, thank you, Antonio. It's been really helpful, insightful. Thank you very much. And have a good day.
My pleasure, Tim.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Nice to be here. Bye.